Hello, I'm Dustin Besson, and yes, I have a VTuber avatar now. Weird. Anyway, this is an interview with Softman25, one of the coordinators at Australian Speedruns, a great speedrun marathon where a bunch of Australians come together to speedrun video games for a great cause. This July will be Beyond Blue. There's more information about it in the description. But before we get to that, I have a couple of personal updates. One, I have a Patreon now. If you like what I do on YouTube or Twitch, you can subscribe to me on Patreon, get some cool benefits. I am also working on 2 new projects at the moment. One of those is a full-blown 80% speedrun tutorial for Ben 10 Protector of Earth. My forward gravity glitch tutorial blew up way bigger than I could have expected. Thank you so much for that. I'm not a fan of the video anymore, it's a year old. So, but this 80% tutorial will be a lot more succinct, teach you a lot more. Part 1 should hopefully be coming out next week, maybe a little bit later. Also, if you remember, I uploaded an animated pilot for Real Fantasy. I enlisted a little bit ago, but if you do remember that, I have some exciting news. Season 1 is currently in active production under the new name of Real Fantasy Fight for the Past, and that will be coming out hopefully later this year, though it might be next year. We'll have to see, depending on the schedules and stuff. I'm super excited to share more information about that when I can. So, Benton tutorial, Real Fantasy, coming soon. I've got a Patreon, link in the description alongside all my other socials. And I hope you enjoyed the interview with Softman25. So first off, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, cool. So my name's Ethan. Online I go by Softman25, and I'm one of the coordinators for AusSpeedruns.
How would you explain to someone speedrunning if they had never even heard of it before?
Yeah, so speedrunning essentially is at its core, it's a competitive activity where the objective is to complete a given video game in the fastest time possible by any means possible. That's at its core what speedrunning is.
What is ASM?
Yeah, so ASM is the Australian Speedrun Marathon. We've been running it since 2015. Essentially, it's an exhibition event of speedrunning. So it's not as hyper competitive as the normal core of speedrunning. It's an exhibition event where people come from all over Australia and in some cases from overseas, such as New Zealand. I know we've had a couple of interests from other countries as well. An exhibition event where people can come together as a community, usually in the same setting, but sometimes online, exhibit their skills at a particular game or particular games, and basically show off to the world and create a great show. At the same time, since 2016, we've raised a lot of money for charity. We've supported charities like Beyond Blue, Royal Flying Doctors Service, and the Red Cross. And these have all been great opportunities to do some good for the world, at the same time as coming together, having a blast, getting to know some new people, and just generally having a great time.
Who are you raising money for this year?
Yeah, this year we're same as last year, same as the last few years. We're raising money for Beyond Blue. Our July ASM events have traditionally raised money for them. They're a fantastic charity. We've been supporting them since 2016. We saw no reason to change from such a great charity that's continuing to do such great work in the space, in the mental health space. So we're going to keep supporting them.
What does your role entail? Like, what does your role at AusSpeedruns entail?
Like personally?
Yeah, like what like in your day-to-day life as a person working at AusSpeedruns, what does that entail?
Yeah, so like day to day, I wouldn't say there's much. Because look, everyone to state AusSpeedruns, everyone's a volunteer. So
Yeah.
I founded the thing back in 2015. Everyone's a volunteer. We do this on the side. I got a part-time job. I work as a tech support guy. Sorry, yes, that's a full-time job. So everything AusSpeedruns related is very much on the side. So my role has shifted quite a bit over the last few years. So in the past, I was basically, I was the head cook and bottle wash of everything. If it needed to be done, I did it. And what I couldn't do, I farmed out to other people who are, kindly volunteering. Things like tech, things where I don't have specific experience. But all the grunt work, all the everything was me. It got to a point where AusSpeedruns had grown to the point that was just unsustainable. We needed more people on. We were obviously getting a lot more people involved in a sort of a quasi-staffing positions. So it was very obvious that there needed to be an organisational shift. As of 2019, we formed what's known as the committee. So which is another colleague of mine, Alex Astrius, together we're the coordinators. And then from there, we have a committee of people who fulfill certain roles. So we'll have someone doing tech, someone doing marketing, and so on. We determine these roles each year on a needs basis. From there, as coordinators, our job is sort of it's oversight and also sort of more strategic thinking. So generally speaking, we'll determine direction for the organisation in a holistic manner. We'll do a lot of the top end stuff, so things like venue management. We're organising a bank account right now because we've got a ticketed event this year. You know, we'll organise budgeting, policy directions, that sort of thing. Like recently, we've just developed a set of codified policies for the organisation on things like harassment, on things like budgeting, on finance, so we can very transparently display that to the community. You know, this is what we're about, this is what we stand for, and that's a lot of the sort of thing that we do in that coordinator role. Is a lot of that sort of top level, high level stuff. And from there, of course, just on a more personal level, I also do get involved where I can, because, you know, I do enjoy it. I do enjoy being involved. So, you know, I'll always sign up where possible. If, you know, if something needs to be done on site, I'm more than happy to just go and do it, you know. So, you know, I don't see myself as aloof from everyone else just because I'm in charge or anything rubbish like that. But yeah, but mostly it's that top-down strategic oversight.
How does ASM in a traditional year, like, how does it play out?
I'm sorry, I'm going to need a more specific question.
Yeah, like, what's the kind of feel at the, like, when you're there in person watching people playing on the screen in front of you? Presuming there's a screen in front of you. I don't know, I haven't been to ASM myself yet.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, look, I'll be honest, I'm not really sure how to answer the question. That's very, very broad.
That might be a bit too vague. I'll just move on for that one.
Yeah, no, I'll try to give you the best answer I can, at least based on what I think you're getting at.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's very much, like, I think that at its core, ASM's always been a community event, and AusSpeedruns has always been about that community building. Yeah, great. You know, we raise money for charity. We're very proud of all the work we've done in that sector. But at its core, you know, it is about that community building. The charity's, you know, great, you know, building a viewership on Twitch. So, you know, we've got that, you know, ability to raise money. That's all fantastic. But at its core, it's always been about building that community and having that be strong, you know, having a place at these events where people can feel like they've got a safe space to enjoy themselves, meet new people, and just generally have a good time in that social sense. So I think it is very community driven, and I'd say that's the sort of overall feel, you know. A lot of the times, a lot of the in-person audience, because most of our audience is online, in-person's never been particularly in depth. A lot of the in-person audience is often just people who are mates with the person who's running. And there's fantastic moments that have been created in AusSpeedruns history. I think a classic example, and you're more than welcome to check the video on this, is the 2019 UniSA finale, which was Mario 64, I think it was 70 star by Paracusia, where a lot of the long-time ASM attendees know Paracusia quite well. And they were all in the crowd, including myself, you know, cheering him on at every star. And it was one of those classic moments that you couldn't create on purpose. You know, none of it was planned. It was just one of those things where, because it was that sort of very strong knit community, it created this great moment. And whilst I think that's certainly, you know, the best example of it, I'd say the entire event is sort of very much like that.
Okay, yeah. So, as you are probably well aware, last year the coronavirus pandemic happened.
Yes.
So, how did you initially react to that idea that doing stuff in person isn't safe.
Yeah, so I mean, look, obviously at first, like probably like most organizations on the planet, at first it was very much like, well, no, it's just, it's just something that's going to pass. And obviously at about 2-3 weeks in, when things really started to hit the fan, obviously there was a very quick and rapid shift in opinion by both, people generally, and then therefore ourselves as well. We'd also been having venue troubles, actually securing good venues, so that sort of played into it as well, wherein it felt that, well, hang on, if we do get a venue and we have to put down deposits and this and that and so on, there's a decent chance that we're not going to be able to hold it, because at first, as you're well aware, at first in Australia, America was sort of hitting the fan quite badly, but Australia was sort of at first holding quite steady. It certainly wasn't good. Don't get me wrong. It certainly wasn't good, but it was nowhere near as bad as America and other places. And I think part of that was very much due to that just generally decent response by governments. Generally speaking, obviously there were hiccups along the way, but it wasn't too bad, at least until the big first Victorian wave hit, and there were some other waves in SA in every state, and then it really went downhill. But at first, as I said, it sort of looked okay, but we did have that sort of initial fear, which then came to pass, as you know, of, well, hang on, no, there's a decent chance that the world's just going to shut down and no one's going to be able to travel. And as I said, ASM at its core is about people coming from interstate, and in some cases overseas, and coming together. People can't travel. It's big problems. So I think it was in about, you can check the announcements in the ASM Discord for the dates. I don't remember them off by heart, but I think it was about mid-April, early mid-April, that we just said, no. We came together as a committee and we said, look, we've got to go online. We don't have a venue. It's completely going to be unreasonable for us to hold an event. If we were to hold an event, it would probably be unsafe to do so. Even if it weren't unsafe to do so, like, let's say some hypothetical said that we could all get together, but the same restrictions were in place, even if it weren't unsafe, it still wouldn't be successful as an event because no one would be there, because no one could travel. And so we just went and up stuff at, look, what's our capability to do something online? It was very quickly figured out that we were very capable to take the event online, so we did so.
So describe how the event changed from a normal in-person event to an online environment, if you can briefly describe that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think like from a technical perspective, I think there are actually a lot of benefits, funnily enough. Because we didn't have to maintain a full suite of video equipment, we didn't have to maintain a full suite of audio equipment, because people essentially just plugged into our systems with their own setups and went from there. And essentially we were just restreamers to a certain degree, at least. Obviously there was a bit more to it than that, but that was sort of the crux of it. So in some ways it was actually quite a lot easier from a technical perspective, and that actually did lend to the quality of the event, because we didn't have as many points of failure, as it were, from a technical perspective. That did mean that the event was overall, in my opinion at least, was of decently high quality. As to the event itself, I think there was certainly, I think the big feeling from the community was that it wasn't a real ASM event to a certain degree, because there was that lack of community togetherness. Like a big thing at ASMs is that on the Sunday evening, because we've always been in Adelaide, we'll go to the North Terrace, the Strathmore Hotel. It's been the case since 2015. It's every Sunday, bang on, it's at the Strathmore. And not being able to go to the Strath, as it's called colloquially, I think a lot of people miss that sort of thing. A lot of people miss just having a drink with their mates, alcoholic or otherwise. And I think that was missed quite a bit. And I think there's that sort of, people are very excited to be able to do that this year. By the same token, as I make that comment though, it was a wildly successful event. In saying that, I think even though without that element, there was still that, at its core, it was still a community event. There was a lot of missing stuff, and I think people missed that. But it was still a fantastic event, an absolutely fantastic event. Again, we raised, I think it was like $13,000, which is a huge amount of money for charity. We did get some great numbers from an internal perspective. So We got a lot of people submitting who had never submitted before, which we always love to see because it grows that community. As I said, that's a core principle of AusSpeedruns. We saw a lot of people who are, again, banding together, giving each other pats on the back, virtually, of course, and I think that was just a fantastic feeling that, even though we were online, there was still a fantastically positive atmosphere. And then when we had our second event, which would again usually be in person at PAX, which was a Fast 2020, it's that exact same positive atmosphere. And I think that was just fantastic throughout both events.
So what led to the decision to return to an in-person event this year?
Well, look, I'll be honest. I think that's sort of the wrong question from our perspective. And I don't mean that in the sense that you're asking the wrong question. That's just sort of not how we felt about it. From our perspective, it was far more the idea of, do we have a reason to not have an in-person event? Because as said, at its core, at least in that less fundamental perspective, a lot of people missed that in-person element, including myself and including a lot of people. And we wanted to return to that if it was possible. When we looked at the overall landscape of how things were going, we'd had no significant outbreaks of COVID for, at the point we made the decision, it would have been months. I know we had a small scare, I think it was in Victoria from that SA case a couple of weeks ago. But even then, that's gone nowhere, which makes me very, very confident that anything similar isn't going to necessarily be a blowout. We haven't had any serious outbreaks at all. I think it was since the Australian Open. I know there were a few cases in Victoria around the Australian Open. And most of the other cases, I don't think we've had really many community transmissions at all. Most of the new cases are all international arrivals, which from my perspective at least are basically zeros. So we felt that the landscape was such that we didn't see a reason why we couldn't run an in-person event. Now, of course, that is still inherently risky. We just actually released a policy on our COVID response and how we're treating that at this next event, ASM 2021. And essentially, the overall feeling that we want to go with is, look, we don't want to be complacent. COVID still exists. Not everyone's going to be vaccinated before the event. We all know that. So we're not going to be complacent. We are going to have hand sanitizer and cleaning wipes for all the equipment. We're going to do what we can to maintain those general restrictions and recommendations so we can have a safe event. And we don't, I'd hate to be in the news for, hey, by the way, these dumb nerds caused a COVID outbreak. That's the last thing I'd want to be in the news for. So obviously we're going to do as much as we can to be safe, create a safe event. At the same time, though, we did feel that the landscape was at a level of risk where holding an event was not, it was not an unconscionable decision. Therefore, we took it.
What are you most looking forward to about ASM this year?
Oh, look, I don't think there's anything in particular. I don't think there's anything in particular. I think just the entire event's going to be great. The return to in-person is something that I think a lot of people are looking forward to, including myself. I'm going to get to see a lot of mates who I haven't seen in person since, it would have been, PAX 2019. So almost 2 years, because these are people I really only see, a couple of times a year generally. It's something I'm looking forward to. It's something I and a lot of other people I know are looking forward to. And I think just, the event holistically on that basis is just going to be brilliant.
Alright, and this question just popped into my head for no reason. I probably shouldn't be asking it. Feel free not to answer. But why should people watch ASM over GDQ?
Because we're a better event. It's simple. We're just a better event.
This won't be in the news space, right? I just want to ask that. Why should people tune into ASM this year?
Well, look, I mean, the fact that we're going to be an in-person event is something I think people are going to be missing. It is a unique experience. I can appreciate that obviously, other events like GDQ and ESA can't deliver it for obvious safety reasons. And I do sympathise with that, because obviously they got to take that, that health and safety perspective first. given the environment that they're in. And obviously, I wish them all the best, them and their management teams and their runners and their attendees and their viewers, with handling that situation the best they can. Because I mean, I know GDQ, ESA, and etc. Of course, I just name those because they're the ones that come to mind first. They do fantastic work for charity. They do fantastic work for the community, and obviously, the sooner they can get back on their feet, 100% ready to go, with both in-person events and online events, the sooner they can, the better. By the same token, I think the fact that we will be an in-person event, in contrast to those other online events, is going to be somewhat of an interesting return to form, as it were, for speedrun marathons. I think it is one of the first in-person events, period, post-COVID. And I believe that's internationally. I can't say, I'm not going to make the claim that we are the first. I haven't checked everything. But I certainly don't know many. Certainly don't know many others. So I think we are quite unique in that sense. Beyond that, of course, though, there is the generic thing, like every speedrun marathon, we're going to have a fantastic lineup, of fantastic runners doing exciting runs. I think we've got a great schedule together. We've got some fantastic blocks. There's been a lot more of diverse submissions than previous years, which was always great to see, and that's just a side effect of us continually pushing towards growing the community where we can over the years. And through that, as I said, we've got such a diverse range of submissions that we're able to create, from a management perspective, we're able to create that great schedule so that people can watch what they want to watch. And, even when they're not watching exactly what they want to watch, they might be able to find something really interesting and new, because we do definitely have some uniqueness in the schedule. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay, well, that's pretty much all the questions I had. Is there anything you want to say?
No, nothing in particular. No. But look, thanks for chatting. It's always good to chat about the event. I'm always more than happy to chat about the event, whether specifically or generally. But yeah, beyond that, we're just looking forward to the event, looking to raise some money for charity, looking to do some good for the community, and hopefully it'll all go ahead without a hitch.
Yeah. Thanks so much.